Good morning, good evening, listeners. This is Marianne from Random Sage. You're listening to me, Marianne. I'm joined today by Dr. Victoria Skirbo. She has, she's an astrologist. She also does tarot readings and channels messages and does wonderful numerology as well through the Kabbalah. And she teaches. She's a gifted teacher. You can find her on YouTube at Victoria Skirbo on YouTube, and she find her videos, and she's got further details in her drop down menu underneath those videos. Anyway, welcome to Random Sage. Welcome, Vicki. How are you? How are you going?
I'm going pretty good, actually. I've been quite busy, and I'm uh, getting ready to go to Ireland for a week. That
Wow.
was sort of a bucket list thing that sort of came on as a kind of as a gift from the universe. So I'm excited and a little bit nervous.
Well, we're excited for you because my ancestors come from Ireland and Scotland, and I'm just excited that you're going to visit those lands and those people. A shout out too to we've got Irish and Scottish viewers here on Random Sage. They come from all over the world, so welcome to our audience today. We're going to be talking about, are we living in a hellish kind of dystopian world, or, and this is the kicker here, are we evolving through confronting our shadow side? So to answer that, we'll answer it in various ways, but I want to ask you, Vicki, you're, as an astrologist, what's the astro weather like? What are the main headlines, if you like, of the times that we live in?
You can see the painting I have behind me. That's my homage to Aquarius. And we are living in I shouldn't use big words.
That's okay, tempestuous. I do it all
Thank you.
the time.
Times. Oh my goodness, yes. But we're evolving, and as I like to say, evolution isn't for sissies. So
Mm,
um,
mm,
this is we're at a choice point. That's the astrology says we're at a choice point. Pluto in Aquarius right now is squaring the nodes of the moon, and the nodes of the moon are our is our evolutionary direction. Like, it's the vortex of our evolution, and we have to choose, are we going to continue to do what we've always done, or are we going to do it in a different way? And honestly, those choices, I think, are the choice between the dystopian world that you speak of
mm.
and the fact that we're co-creators with spirit, and we can create whatever world we put our mind to and our hearts to. And I think that's an important thing, because I look at the world and see what's going on out there, and I'm horrified. But I
Mm.
look around in my life and I'm going, wow, my life's like working, like, and and it's I don't know, it's just like you have to be where you at. And if things are good for you, I almost feel like you have more responsibility to make it good for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so for those of us who were not in, ducking from bombs coming flying at us,
Yeah.
I mean, that's those people don't have a whole lot of agency right now. They just have to survive. But we've got plenty of agency, and I think it's important for us to use that for the betterment of everyone involved here, because we're all in this together.
Mm.
And I think,
Yeah, totally. I was listening to an astrologer the other day. I can't remember who it was. Apologies to that astrologer, but one of the things actually was Daniel Fiverson. I think he has a YouTube channel.
yes,
He said to that, yeah, it's. I mean, I'm paraphrasing and adding a bit of my stuff too, but I agree that with what you've said. But one of the things he said was, rather than fight, fight uh, what is happening, we have to accept at this point in time we are where we are.
yes.
And the expectation that there will be this miraculous wand that's waved is not, it's not what the astrology is telling us. And so, as an astrologer myself, and I concur totally. These transits, these massive changes of the big planets, well, Pluto, not so big, but in its
Don't tell
effect,
Pluto.
huge. Don't tell Pluto that. No. It's just it's exposing what needs to be exposed,
Right.
and it's in Aquarius where it's got that civic kind of societal function, that we are getting a good hard look at what needs to be looked at, and
Yeah.
and we're starting to realize just how important truth is. And then you add the second major transition here, Saturn into Pisces,
Yes.
which I think fits like a glove. What do you think the effect of Saturn in Pisces is?
The interesting thing about Pisces is, because it's the last sign of the zodiac, it sort of holds within it all the other signs. So there's so many possibilities of Saturn through Pisces, but Saturn tends to make things real. And so with Pisces, you can make your dreams real, but you can also make your monsters real with Pisces, because if you're caught up in addictions and those more negative sides of Pisces, your life can literally be a living hell. So it sort of depends a lot on your perspective. It depends on what's and of course it depends on where it's in your chart. Where is Saturn moving through, and do you have planets in those signs? But generally, I actually like Saturn in Pisces, because I feel like we get to test out our dreams too, because sometimes we have a lot of dreams, they're not all realistic, and we're still in bodies. So as much as we'd like to think we can create stuff like out of just with our mind, it's not quite like that. And I think that the point that you brought up is that sometimes we can have ideas and where we want to go, but sometimes life happens and you just kind of have to flow with it and make the best of whatever situation you find yourself in. And I've mostly tried to live my life that way, and so far, I'm okay. So I've had a lot of practice, but that might be because my moon's in Pisces. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, what about Saturn bringing limitations into the boundless? So I always, Neptune ruling Pisces, I always like to think of it, I guess, in a hopeful way, that that something is coming into form, that
Yes.
Neptune brings something into form. Saturn puts some boundaries around what we're actually bringing, its limitations, obstacles, the taskmaster showing us where we have to do that work. So if Pluto's exposing all this societal, even government corruption, then Saturn is also acting as a limiter on what it could be harmful. So I'm going here to the big lies, to the, thinking that you can tell this big lie and get away with it, because in your country at the moment, we're seeing that you cannot.
That's right.
And it's a wonderful thing to view, I might add. It is wonderful, because we have Fox, Murdoch in all sorts of trouble for peddling the big lie, and we have also the former president Trump under multiple investigations, including now wire fraud for potentially or allegedly raising money off a big lie. But we have all sorts of other defamation cases, E. Jean Carroll for Trump defaming her, and also a historic rape allegation. It's like, had a boss once that used to say the chickens are coming home to roost. To me, that's what it's like. But I want to ask you, what do you think is the number one threat to our society, humanity's security or progress? What would you say is the number one threat?
I think thinking that we can bomb our way or bully our way into peace. I think we have to start talking to each other. I think we have to start, this whole the one thing that struck me about the leak from that young man who lives like, or used to live, I guess, 40 minutes from me, and where he worked is 15 minutes from me. So it's like right here. I text Tara, never Jack, I think his first name was. Is that like, how do we expect to have security when you can't really have secrets anymore? The technology is such that we're so connected. And then there's the question of, well, maybe it's all made up, but how do you know? Like, there's this sort of suspension of belief, which might also be Saturn and Pisces. I don't know, but there's this like, we can't keep doing it this way, and we're just building bigger nuclear bombs and submarines, and where is this and where's that? What is that? How does that make us safer? It doesn't. And I think that there's a realization of that. And I think I heard you mention that in one of your readings as well. You're like, how, you keep like that idea that it's just not going to work. We have to get along. We have to connect. We
Yeah.
have to look at it instead of being nation states. We need to be human, and we need to see what people need and how we can work together to survive this, because otherwise we're not going to survive it, honestly. And I think that's one of the choices that we make. And I think it's going to be seen, especially, I think it's the second or third week of, it's the week I leave to go to Ireland that week. We have Pluto, which stations retrograde on the 1st of May, which is a powerful energetic day, right? May Day. It's a pagan holiday. It's a fertility festival. So Pluto stops, and then we have Mars come. We have Jupiter move into Taurus.
Yeah.
Right, squares immediately, right, and then a couple of days later, Mars opposes Pluto. So we have Mars opposite Pluto, Mars in Leo, Pluto in Aquarius, and then Jupiter squaring that. And I feel like this is the point where something happens with the Ukraine, because Zelensky's Mars is at that degree of Leo. He has Leo 1 degree of Leo, I think, retrograde,
The
1 or 2
Zelensky,
degrees.
yeah, Zelensky talking, of course, to Xi Jinping, was, even though I guess, that some in the US might see that as differently, I actually thought that was a positive thing.
I think it's great.
Simply because China has a lot of leverage over Russia. It's that Russia's very much subordinate to China. So that should be interesting. I want to also touch on the misinformation aspect. Well, I think that undermines everything. If you can't agree on facts,
Right.
if you cannot agree on, well, truth can be, there's that saying, what's true to you may not be true to me, but there are the facts, and we've muddled through as a society by falling back on facts, by falling back on evidence, by falling back on, if you like, the science of things. If you can't agree on what the facts are, or if you make up alternative facts, as we saw, that's what happened, of course, when Trump came to power in the US, these alternative facts, a la conspiracy theories, started to arise. If you can't rebuke them, if you can't put them aside, and if they start to take hold in the mainstream, we're done for. I don't think they will, because of what we spoke about earlier on in this podcast. To me, my number one positive is that you've got that rejection of the MAGA-like politics, and that has happened all over the world. That's not just in the US. I use the term MAGA because it spread like a poisonous seed at the time of Trump to other nations. And we dealt with it here in Australia. There was a wholesale rejection of that, making up stuff for political gain. Let's just put it in its simplest form. They don't believe this. Now, they don't believe what they're saying. They're doing it to capture the vulnerable and the naive and those that have a button to be pressed. But at the end of the day, when it is going to threaten our security, there's a rejection, a wholesale rejection amongst the majority. And I've been heartened to see in the US, some of that in the 2022 midterms wasn't a red tsunami at all. There was wholesale rejection of your MAGA candidates. What do you see? You might pick something totally other. What do you see as the number one positive development to counterbalance the very insecure times that we're in at the moment?
I think it's the awakening of the youth. Because we've not you and I, of course, but those people in power don't seem to have any interest in what's best for them. I could enumerate any number of things in America and how the youth are treated, not the least of which they get shot at with AK-47s, which can't make anybody feel too secure. We're really and so I mean, I don't want to get too negative on that, but I think it's the waking up. And when you see things like what's going on in Tennessee with the Tennessee 3, and you see what happened in Montana with Zoe Zephyr, and the people getting behind their representatives, and then all these people say, no, you can't say it. And then don't even get me started on the Dodd decision and Roe v. Wade and all the medicines and trying to control the wombs of women. It's just it's like women have the children, they should make the decision. And why should we allow our children to come into a world that's so dystopic? Like, I mean, even like animals, when they're when they're under stress, they don't have children. Like if there's not enough food, the animals don't make babies. When there's a lot of food, there's a lot of babies. So they go in with and it's going against nature. So
I mean, we started this podcast talking about dystopia. I do see that there are many elements of a dystopian type of society, particularly coming out of the US at this time. But I do believe that we are evolved enough to make it through. I did a reading. I keep getting asked to read. Every time there's a massacre anywhere in the US, people ask me, please, is there going to be gun reform? It's like a pleading with me. I resist doing that time and time again because it's just so goddamn tragic. It really is. However, when I do give in and read on it, I get something extremely unexpected.
Yeah.
I get that gun reform is a reality, is going to be a reality, that your society is going to establish some boundaries. And I get totally surprised. I go, wow. And then when I start to look at it with my logical mind, so psychically, gun reform is on its way. You can't keep going the way you are. People say put a timeline on it. I think, surprisingly enough, Biden does something before 2024 on this. But I think that, maybe some moderate Republicans in swing seats, kind of support him in some way. So I don't know. Are we evolved enough to make it? You said at the beginning of the podcast that, maybe You know, we may or may not be. What's your feeling on this?
I think we're going to do it, but I'm an optimist. You know, I mean, what, why invest in the dystopian side of things? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. I
I
think
don't want, I,
also, yeah, there's going to be casualties along the way, without a doubt. Vicki, I
and
know.
I think on some level we've chosen to be here at this time, right?
Mm,
So we all have a part to play, and I almost feel like we're all getting called up into the army of light, really, is what we're getting called up in to do, to shine the light on these things, to make people aware that there's a different way, that we
mm.
don't have to live this way, and bring hope to what seems like a hopeless situation.
Yeah,
Uh,
I look, the
I mean,
truest.
who thought Tucker Carlson would be off Fox?
Exactly, exactly. And who thought that Fox might be in financial trouble? Well, watch this space. Eventually they will be. And
Yeah.
they will be broken up and operate under different business structures. Now, we're coming to the end of our podcast. We always ask a big question, and we always pull some tarot cards. So I'm going to ask you, Vicki. You can either, yeah, well, look, I'll ask you the big question, okay? And you
Oh
pull your
no.
tarot cards. You, you've got a few minutes to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Big question. All right.
My big question to you. Okay, so we've got literally 5 minutes.
Okay. I'll solve all the problems in 5 minutes.
Okay,
Let's
all
see.
right. Are there higher beings helping humanity out at this time? Just a few cards.
Okay.
Are there higher beings?
The Hierophant. The
Yep,
Hierophant. So
higher.
that's, yeah. So listening to your inner, the Hierophant in the Kabbalah, the Hierophant is is listening to your inner voice. And
Mm,
that inner voice, we always talk about like aliens and higher vibrational beings, but those higher vibrational beings are us.
mm,
It's us. We just have to make the connection. And
mm,
that's what that card speaks of.
mm,
So we'll do, it's a big question, so I'll use more than one card. We the Prince of Wands here. So
mm.
we have to get, I always think of that card as getting your show on the road, and almost like going out and like in the old days when they would have the tent revivals. I mean, I think we need to come together and start raising the energy for that positivity.
Mm.
Okay.
It's
What
what
was the
makes the
question
work we
again?
do so important here.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the Three of Wands. We're waiting for the ships to come in, right? We're waiting for the mothership.
Yeah.
So, you know what I said to my husband, who's always waiting, Michael, that's what the name you see below, that's my husband's name.
Yeah, and I'll give him a plug. He's on Facebook under
He
that.
is Michael Pagel, and Receivings with Michael Pagel. I think he
Okay,
has two.
thumbs
He
up.
has two. One's a group. What
Hey,
the
Michael.
receivings thing? Hi, Michael. The receivings thing is his healing, because he does energetic healing.
Yep.
But I said to him, I said, the mothership is planet Earth, right? Like that's the mothership. She's our mother. So we're going to have to figure out how to navigate on this ship so we can continue to fly through the sky. But
Mm,
yes, so the answer to the question is yes, there are higher beings. We are part of that. We
mm,
are those beings. It's like, it's almost like we're the connections on the planet. It's almost like a grid of light that we're creating.
mm, mm.
And one of the reasons I think that we can really change things with our consciousness now is because we are so connected.
Yeah.
Before, we weren't connected in that way. I mean, we could telegraph, we could send a letter,
Mm,
but now it's instantaneous. Everything is instantaneous, and that's the power.
mm.
And the currency is attention.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the currency. And so what you focus on is, and what you put your energy in is what your life's going to look like and what we're all going to look like. So
Mm.
I'm not interested in dystopia.
No. And here we get to evolution, the higher self. I mean, what is evolution but moving toward our our higher selves, listening, communicating
Integrate,
with our higher selves.
becoming more embodied, or allowing our higher selves to be more embodied.
Yes, yeah. Yes. So it's wonderful to have you on the show, Vicki. It really is.
I'm
And
honored to be here. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
head over to Vicki's channel and check her out. She does daily astro weather forecasts, and they're great. So head over and have a listen to her and check out what she's got to offer. But we'll say cheerio, as we say in Australia. My father used to say cheerio, so I like that. And we'll be back again with another podcast. Weekly or semi-weekly for me on Random Sage. But in the meantime, you can check Vicki out. You can check me out on my other channel, Revealing Light, Tarot, Astrology and Spirituality on YouTube, various other platforms. And keep living spiritually, because that's where the answer is. Thanks, Vicki, for coming on today. Bye for now.
My pleasure. Bye, everyone.